Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's My Games Recruitment Show, where, as you can see,
We're not live yet.
yes, we are. That's why it says live in the corner.
Not on mine, we're not.
It does on mine. So
Doesn't
just
matter.
Now we are.
that's
20 seconds in now.
I'm so sorry, Mike isn't in control of things. He's being sassy today. But we are, as you can see, talking about how to be a stickier employer for free. And of course, I'm joined by the one and only Mike Ames today. And Mike, this is something that not a lot of people think is as important as it is, do they?
My hair. That's what we're talking about. I'm growing it out. I don't know how people feel about that. Betwixt and between at the moment. I don't want to really talk about it.
We're not even a minute in. It's
You can edit that out, can't you? It'll be fine.
No, actually, I can't.
Recorded
Mike,
show.
do you want to introduce the topic today and our lovely guest?
Okay, then, yeah. Right, and so, sticky employer. What that means is it's easier for you to attract the people that you need, and they stay longer with you, right? And we're going to explain why that's, if you haven't figured it out already, why that is so mega important. But one of the reasons that I wanted our guest Jake to come on the show was that he's a particular exponent of something that I'm very keen on. But first, let me do a little introduction. Welcome to the show, Jake.
Thank you for having me. How are you both? How's everyone?
If I was any better, I'd be
so far.
Seriously, I'm that good. I'm too good for one person. That's what I'm saying now. Right. So Jake is the founder and MD of Maverick Recruitment, and I believe that works in the property and prop tech sector. Jake, that's correct, isn't it?
Spot on. Yeah, spot on.
Okay, and the reason you're here today is because you are an advocate in a big way of a thing called offboarding, are you not? Could you tell us a little bit about offboarding, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, quick caveat to the offboarding is the onboarding. So it's obviously onboarding is about how a company introduces an employee to the organization, introducing the team members, basically providing the best platform for the employee to be successful. Offboarding is polar opposite, where it's essentially terminating the working relationship in the best possible way. So the most respectful way, efficient, fair, and just doing the best ways, because you never know what the future is going to hold.
And one of the things that when we were talking about it the first off that I really liked, because I like data. Data. I cannot make bricks without clay. Sherlock Holmes, one of my favorites. But the data that you get from it, if you ask the right questions in the right way, is going to make you a stickier employer if you act on that information. Is it not, Jake?
Yep, absolutely. And obviously, if someone's being made redundant or whether they've handed the notice in to go to an opportunity, both are going to be providing extreme value to what you can learn from them. They're on the front line. What you can learn from them to become a sticky employer, and it's that data that you can use to improve anything which you may have not been exposed to. It could be the tech stack, it could be the company culture, it could be anything, the sort of procedures, the compliance, that can all be revealed to you, which if it's a problem and that's why people are leaving, you can then rectify. And as such,
I think the first thing about offboarding, we are going to talk about it in more depth later, and as we go through, because some of the data kind of can be used everywhere. The thing about offboarding, it's like VOTC for your staff. If you've seen anything we've written about VOTC, voice of the customer, it's like VOTE, voice of the employee. And you can do it before people leave. It's okay to do it, but when people are leaving, they've kind of got nothing to lose. So they can tell you the way it really is, whereas employees kind of have to temper what they say a little bit, or at least they think they do. So that's what I was so interested in it for, because that data, provided it's not a tick box exercise, like I've got to go through this and it's done now, I've done the offboarding, off we go. Well, what are we going to do about it? Well, nothing really, because I haven't read it, don't care. No, the exact opposite of that. We're going to analyze what's been said and compare it with what we think and compare it with what other people have said. Then that creates change, and that's really what we're interested in today, is it not?
Yeah, Yeah, exactly that. It's yeah, you basically want to identify the common trends.
Exciting. And I know we're going to delve into that deeper, Mike. So before we start looking at an EVP, do you want to explain why being sticky is so powerful?
Sticky is best.
Sticky is best.
In my head, right?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so sticky then. Yeah, well, it basically means you make more profit. That's what that means. Because churn in a business, staff churn, when people are coming and going, the volatility of the team costs money. When you bring someone new in, they're not really up to speed, so it takes some time to get up to productivity. It can be anything up to 3 or even 6 months longer in certain roles to be really at peak performance. And whilst they're building that up, they're costing you money. And likewise, and of course, at the end of that, they might not make it and you have to sack them. All that time and effort and money has been wasted then. Could have been profit, instead you wasted it. Likewise, when someone goes, they're going to take a big bunch of productivity with them. Not only are you going to lose out, particularly in the 360 world, where you lose the revenue stream, but even if you're not 360, there's a big bunch of productivity you ain't got anymore. So you're going to be performing underneath the level that you want. I'd sooner have a stable team of average people who are getting better and better at what they do within their bounds, working together as a team, because the whole is very much greater than the sum of its parts, and staying together for longer. I'll make much more money off that if I'm competing against somebody whose job it is just to bring in stars and they stay for a bit and then they go, or they don't work out, or they promise this and delivered that, yada yada yada. 100% easier to manage, make more money. That's why sticky is important, Kirsty.
Okay, I think I can get behind that. Anything that makes me more money, I'm a huge fan of. Okay, so Mike, let's delve deeper into EVP. And guys, don't forget, if you're watching this, if you have any questions for Mike or for Jake as we go through, just pop them in the comments and I'll bring them up. Try and stump him. It always makes me feel better when people manage that. So Mike, let's talk about EVP.
He deserves to be stumped. Yeah, stump him. Yeah, get him. Yeah.
That's you, Mike, not Jake. Jake is very nice too. You.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Right. Let's start with EVP, Mike. Come on.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay. Oh, before I do that, I just saw something come up there. Yeah, a bit of churn in your team is good, right? Yeah, okay. I'm okay with that completely. Bit of churn, but you're looking between 3 and 5% a year. It's quite low. That's okay. Right. Okay. So, first thing to say then is some research that we first came across it some time ago. We ran a poll, and then subsequent to that, to make absolutely certain, we'd been asking our clients, part of the breakthrough program, just to check this out as well. And it seems that about between 60 and 75% of candidates, depending on which poll you believe, are as interested or more interested in the company that they're going to join as they are the job that you've approached them for. Now, let's just let that sink in a minute. Right? These people, particularly millennials and Gen Zs, really want to know about the company and very keen to know about that company. And so if you don't meet that need, it means the job has got to be absolutely spot on. It's got to be better than spot on to get them. Whereas if you get them excited about joining a company, even if the job's not exactly what they want, they're thinking, I'll join that company and then I'll be able to maneuver myself into a better role, right? EVP, employee value proposition, that's what it is. It's a way of defining the best bits of your company, the reasons that people should come and join you. And there are sections on that, which we'll talk about in a second. But I'm just going to come to Jake actually now and ask him, in terms of building an EVP, do you think that offboarding can help us do that?
Yeah, 100%. Just going back to what you said at the beginning, when someone is leaving, that's when they can be brutally honest. They obviously probably would have held those comments back during their employment. As long as this, when we talk about the offboarding and when this sort of data comes out, it's going to be during the exit interview. So bearing in mind that the questions are asked are always going to be the same and they're consistent, then yeah, you will be able to get the truth of it from that employee who is leaving. And the answer is going to obviously vary from employee to employee. but you'll certainly be able to build up a decent idea of, firstly, what is good about your company, about your culture, what you do well, and more so not, you're going to build up a really good idea of what you don't do well. So you'll 100% get good data, both positives and negatives.
And it's the negatives I'm most interested in. Positives are important because we want to ring fence them. Very often we do something that we don't realize that people value. We just don't understand that. So occasionally we'll just stop doing it or just drift away from it. Whereas, and it's the same with our clients, it's exactly the same with the clients, which is why you would do a VOTC, is to reach out and find out things people really like, to keep doing them. What we're really interested in is the things that people don't like. What do we do wrong? What could we do better? And also, I think, certainly with customers, and I think it's the same with employees as well, they probably have a decent idea what they think we should be doing. It's not just that part is rubbish, it's that part is rubbish, but if you did this, well, that would be a different kettle of fish. Do you find that in the offboarding projects that you do, there are suggestions for improvement, not just criticism?
Yeah, so firstly, the person carrying out the interview will be a neutral party, so it won't essentially be their line manager, because most likely not, they are going to be one of the reasons why someone could be leaving. But yeah, you want someone neutral just so that person can be as fair and transparent. And yeah, it is. I'm trying to think, really, it's especially sort of like on particular scenarios. And it's actually going to come back to one of Dale Carnegie quotes. You know, when you are dealing with humans, you are dealing with creatures of, ego and pride and vanity. What we find with offboarding projects, as we'll call them, is depending on how that person has been treated, will have a big effect on how kind of honest and brutal they can be. I mean, some will just tear them apart. And actually, that's sometimes the best things, because that's when they really, really uncover the sort of hard stuff. Hopefully, if it's not just sometimes it is directed at one specific situation, which, if that is the case, again, it could be a manager being completely out of line about something, whether it's like sexual harassment or something. That stuff is quickly resolved.
It's when it's more smaller stuff, isn't it, really? I think small stuff is more interesting in a way, because you're more likely to be able to act on it, which I think is quite useful.
Yeah, exactly that. Especially if companies losing a lot of staff quite quickly, and especially in the property world, there is a high amount of turnover. Some, as you said before, some companies unfortunately just use it as a box ticking exercise, but it's the ones where they really do look at the data, they do look at the criticisms.
Okay, let's move on to that then, because I think it's an important part is to define an EVP, because I think that your exit interview should be at least have the EVP in it. So let's just very quickly define the sections. We've covered this before on a show, so I won't go chapter and verse, because it would be an EVP show then. There's more to it than that. So, but certainly around the culture. Now, the culture is set by the owner. So an idea that you can have like a working group to set the culture, it's a nonsense. Don't even think about doing that, because it will revert back to what the owner wants. So the owner sets the culture. And by that, I mean the mission. What are we all here for? Right? What's the deal? What are we trying to achieve here? And if you don't have a strong mission, then you're unlikely to get people very, very attached to your business. I don't really know why they're there. So it's really a strong mission. A good set of values. Values are just rules. And I would say that you can choose what you like for your values, but there's only half a dozen values that matter in a recruitment firm. I can go through those. We won't do it today, perhaps we'll do it another show. But things like integrity, things like hard work, things like ingenuity and innovation. These things are necessary to be successful in a recruitment company. So you can choose whatever values you like, man. But the whole point of it is you can say to someone, that thing you just did, that was against that value. That's the point. And when you write your values, underneath you should have several, what they're called behaviors. They're just examples. of those values so people can really internalize it. Oh, I get it. I get what it means when you say persistent. I understand what that means, right? You keep going and going and going. You never stop, yada, 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 right? So I think mission, values, and strategy. So this is how we're going to do the thing that we've set out. This is how we're going to achieve our mission, the headline level. That defines really, along with the vision, the culture of the business in a sense. That's number one. Number two is how you can get promoted. Right. So what is your journey for promotion? Number three is the support that you get during that personal development. Management style is number four, which is really important. And management style, and are you managed heavily by KPIs? What are the processes if you disagree with something? How can you work from home? You know, the whole that bunch of stuff there. The next one is, these are softer things now, is things like EDI. So what's your policy on EDI? What's your policy on corporate social responsibility or charity giving back? What kind of, I know this sounds kooky, what kind of nice things can the business have? Doesn't matter what your job is, you get these nice things, these perks. Or socialization is another thing. How now we work from home, how are we going to socialize where we could have socialized when we were in the office? Oh, we could have a quick drink after work or whatever. Can't do that now. So what are the socialization policies? So all of these things represent your EVP. Mm-hmm. And if you want to see a really good one in action, I'm not saying for a second that they do or don't live up to this, okay, not to be held responsible for that, but I am talking how it's represented. Go and look at the Michael Page Join Us page, because it's brilliant. Man, they've obviously done their research around EVP, and it's all there. They do it real well. I hope they stick to it. I don't know, though, as I said, one way or the other. Mm-hmm. So that's it. So the EVP, that data, you can collect all of that. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Do we do this well enough? Would you like us to do this differently? Do you think our CSR policies are strong enough? Would you like them to be more personal? A whole raft of things, questions you can ask about that EVP. But ultimately, that EVP represents the attractiveness of your business. And one of the things you have to do is define it. You have to do a SWOT analysis. Where are we now? On all of those things, where are we? I mean, have we got a clear mission? Do people buy into it? Have we got good values that people buy into, that the leader supports, that actually infuse in every aspect of our operation? Because if we haven't, our culture is not strong enough. So you can do that kind of audit thing, if you will. And then you can compare it with what you want it to be. Because I'll tell you now, the stronger the culture of your business stemming from its leader, the more likely you are to attract and keep people. So that's the deal. Like an adventure. You're going on an adventure. Right? The leader stands up and says, right, we're going to do this, that, and the other, and we're going to do this, and we're going to get this. It's going to be great. God, who's with me? It's like, yeah, come on. As opposed to, well, I don't know. What does anybody want to do? Do you think we should? I don't know. What do you want to do? You know, let's have a working party and decide what we should do. No. That's not leadership, ladies and gentlemen. Leadership is when someone says, this is what we're doing, guys. If you don't like this, you should go down the street, mate, because this is what we're doing and this is how we're doing it. That's your EVP, really.
And very, very briefly, Mike, because we do have a lot to cover, and I want to talk about some more practical things. But if that is our EVP, once we've figured it out, once we as the leader have figured it out and then disseminated it down, how do we tell other people about it? How do we promote to futures?
Well, the first thing you need is an EVP on a page. 2 pages of A4, I'll give you that if you will. An EVP on the page with just a sentence or two on each of those key sections so that people understand what it is. You can put more detail behind it another time, but headline, this is what we need. And you can use that, you can give it to your agencies if they're recruiting for you so that they know how to sell your business with that. Never mind about the job, they know how to sell the business. You can put it on your website, as Michael Page have done, of course. You can make posts on LinkedIn about it. And like I said, just going back to the Join Us page, most people's Join Us page are pathetic. I don't mean to be rude if yours is. Actually, I don't really care one way or the other. But the point is, you really need to make it strong, man. Someone's got to look at it and go, 87% of millennials and Gen Z will look at your website. They will research you. If what they see is, meh, how are they going to feel about you? You've got to make them think, wow, never wonder about the job. Man, that's a cool place to work. I'll have some of that action. Get me some of that. That's what you want. You know, 75% of people are as excited or more excited about the company as they are the job. So sell the company first, and that's your EVP. So there you go.
All right. I think that was a very good whistle-stop tour of an EVP, and I liked how we figured out, how offboarding can help with that. Now, we have some things that we're going to delve, excuse me, deeper to in a second, Mike. But before we go into them, I believe it's time for a message from our sponsors.
Yes, it is. Who are they, Kirst?
Yeah, it's us. It's us. It's still us.
Yeah, it is. Right. Okay. So I'm just going to just talk to you about our profit and lifestyle growth summit. It's a full day session working with us on your business. It's in person at a hotel, and we cover these absolutely crucial elements of your business. If you build a business that have these 5 components, these sections, we call them engines, and the last one, as you can see, is stickier employer, you will have a business that's high profit and doesn't need you all the time, which you can then either keep as it is, or you can then scale it up. It's up to you entirely. Now, the day is really cool. Everyone says that, and we have got loads of video testimonials of people who've been on the day say it wasn't what they thought, it was just much better, and so on and so forth. So when we look at the prices, you'd think we charge a lot more, but we don't. That's the deal. So in Birmingham, you get breakfast, you get lunch, you get a set of notes, you get us, the team, all day, and the same Manchester and London. A bit more expensive in London because everything costs more money down there. Right. We also have an online version coming very soon. It'll be the autumn. So if you're interested, if you're watching this abroad and you'd like to be part of this, you can. Just let us know. And the best way to do that is just email summit to mike@flair.co.uk, and I will send you a link. By the way, let's be very clear. This does not mean you're going to one of those frightful email funnel things. I hate them, and it's not going to happen, right? I'll send you it, and then that's it, really. There you go. So I tell you, if you want to scale your business, that's the thing for you.
Yeah, we are not a fan of those email brigades. Okay, Mike, right. Now, let's talk a bit more about this sticky employer, because as we found out, being a sticky employer can help us to grow our business and make more money in a stable way, which is what we want. Now, one of the things that you wanted to talk about is refrigerator recruitment. And a lot of people may not have heard of this. So can you just give a very brief summary of what it is so that people can understand it, and then we can talk about how
it's been around for years. It's had different names. So essentially, you build a pipeline of future employees in the same way that you would build a pipeline of future clients or a pipeline of future candidates. It's the pipeline. It's what it is, really. So it's the triangle shaped. You get a lot of people you begin to engage with, and then as you move people through set stages, people drop off, and then eventually what you're left with is the people that you hire. Now, the thing I like about it, it's free, doesn't cost any money. I also like the fact that because there's several touch points, they really understand what it's like to work with you. They really get your EVP, your culture, everything that goes with your business. And you can make it very clear, if you don't like this, don't come. You need to go down the road, mate, because if you come here, this is what we do, and this is how we do it, and this is where we're going. You'll just leave. It'll be rubbish. So you get, instead of having a quick interview, which is what you'd probably do when you're hiring a recruiter, you'd probably have several interviews. My job at my first business towards the end was asking clients what they thought about us and recruiting people through refrigerator recruitment. It wasn't called that then. I would just go and see people that my consultants had said that their candidates had said were good. Who else do you know who's as good as me? That one. And I get names. I just ring them up and say, Mike Ames, MD Software Knowledge. Fancy a drink? I haven't got a job. But hey, let's meet and have a chat and just see where we go. And if they didn't get that, if they were too transactional, they weren't right for me anyway. So it was a great test. So those people, I'm happy where I am. Well, that's fine because we're not hiring at the moment. But let's have a chat. And I just knew, because I just talked about the company and listened to them, what they wanted to achieve and how they saw the world. And I just knew. And it was then, well, when we get a job that suits, I'll give you a ring in the fridge, really. Open the door and take him out when you want to. It's the most efficient way I know to grow a recruitment firm. You still need good rec-to-recs, of course you do, because you need to be able to act like that sometimes. But to have your own refrigerator recruitment capability within your business makes it so much easier. And you can see, if you're doing that, why an EVP is so important, because that's what you talk about, and that's what you get them to talk about, what they find, what's your view on EDI? Is it important to you? Don't bullshit me, just tell me what it really is. How do you see your career developing? What do you want to do around about that? All of that is EVP. And I'm guessing, just bring you in on this, Jake, if I can, to see what feedback we could get from offboarding to help us fuel this. But I'm guessing if you were talking to potential employees, a lot of the information you could gather from an offboarding exercise, you could feed into that into those chats, whether they're down the pub or in coffee shops, because apparently drinking after work is not a good thing now.
People just don't do it as much, Mike. That's what I'm saying.
You say people, right? I do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, okay.
A quick question for you then, Mike. When you've interviewed people in the past, so you've got a candidate you've sourced yourself, and you've instructed a rec to rec, and they've sourced you a candidate. Say the candidate that the rec to rec has sourced is a grade A, and the candidate that you know deep down in your heart they're probably a grade B candidate, but it's going to save you what 7-8K on a recruitment fee.
It's not about the recruitment fee first and foremost. It's not about the recruitment fee, because if you look at the cost of hiring a bad hire, like that dwarfs the recruitment costs. But in answer to your question, first of all, never answer a question with a question. I'm just about to do that. How do you know that that person is a grade A candidate? How do you know that? You've had one meeting with them, maybe two. How can you possibly know? You don't. Right? I mean, the salesmen are very good at selling themselves. So how many 360s have you hired that were not 360s? Yeah. I do business development. No, you don't, obviously, because you haven't done a tap since you've been with us. I love my clients. I spend loads of time on client care. Nope. Ringing them up, asking for vacancies is not client care. So no, so you don't even know they're A. Whereas if I've met them 3 or 4 times, and certainly if I've layered 4 or 5 pints of Abbott's ale down them, I know whether they're good, bad, or indifferent for sure. That's why our attrition rate is so tiny, because by the time, what's it termed? Be difficult to hire and easy to fire. Is it someone said that? Was it Gary Vaynerchuk or someone? Anyway, but you've got to take a bit of time to make sure that they are the right fit. But I would definitely take someone who was, forget the fee, as average, but bought into what we were doing. That really bought into the way in which we did things and what we were trying to achieve and the rules that we had and all the fringe benefits, how we socialize, everything about us, and be average, because I can make great things out of that person, rather than someone who's a bit of a star but didn't really fit in. You know, you get like footballers is the metaphor, is an analogy, I suppose. When they come in, they're great, but they don't fit in the team. They don't really achieve very much, right? 100% of the time. But to stress, it's not about the fee. It's $7,000. Who cares about that? I suppose I should know. Yeah. So going back to it. So can you gather information, do you think, during the offboarding process that will help during that refrigeration recruiter process? I know we've got to move on, Kirst. I know that.
Yeah, we do have to move on to have to Jake's answer.
Yeah, I'm going to get
Jake. Okay, I'll try and make it short and snappy. Yeah, absolutely. When you speak to your employees, what managers don't realize is that the job can change. There'll be small incremental changes, but they could certainly change. And then that will help shape the person that you need to hire. But as a manager, also, you should have a pretty good overview of what your culture and team kind of camaraderie, I suppose, is like as well. So yeah, of course you'll be able to get data.
That changes over time as well. See, that's the answer I was hoping you'd give, and we didn't rehearse this, so that is for me the right answer. Is as your business gets bigger, what actually happens, it loses its shape, right? And that means it becomes less profitable. Service levels tend to drop. Staff motivation drops. Profitability drops. I said that twice. It's so important. And your reputation in the outside world tends to be tarnished a little bit. That's generally speaking what happens as you grow. Losing your shape, it's called. And it's that staff motivation, staff happiness levels, because the culture changes. The way it was when it was small is not the same way as it is now. It's bigger, and it gets bigger still, and that culture gets diluted. And I don't think you pick that up necessarily if you're in charge. I don't think it's as obvious. But somebody who's working in the business will, and the way you can get that out is via an offboarding process. I mean, you can do a VOT, voice of the employee, and there's certain ways you can do that anonymously to pull in information. I think it's worth doing, quite frankly, before someone leaves. But if someone does leave, you've got to make the most of it. I think you're right, actually, Jake. I think that's the way you change those things up. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to interrupt, Mike, because we are pushing time. So let's talk about, let's say we found our right employee, whether we found them through, refrigerator recruitment, whether we've used a rec to rec, whether we've just done something else, found them on the street, I don't know. How do you onboard them? Because obviously offboarding is important, Jake, as you've mentioned, but the kind of opposite side of that is onboarding. You have to make sure they join the company, right? So how do we do that?
Okay. So a couple of interesting things to say here, really. If you have got a strong EVP that promises all of these things for somebody, so they come on board thinking that this is the business they're going to get into and this is how they'll be treated when they get there. If you don't deliver what you promise, then they'll eventually leave, or they'll certainly be demotivated, 100%, right? Promise me this, promise me that. They haven't achieved any of those things on leaving. So it's very important to install the processes and ownership of your delivery of your promises. So someone is in charge of EDI, someone is in charge, or someone makes sure that all the staff appraisals are done and the promises made in the appraisals are then action. So you have to do that. And if you're a small business, you can outsource that. Someone like Tina Holt, she's a HR consultant, you can outsource it to her. There are other people that do it. So you can outsource it, but you can make certain that what you promise, you deliver. Now, the lead up to that, or the opening to that, is your onboarding. Now, most people make the mistake of thinking onboarding is like 3 days. It's like here's the staff handbook. This is how you get your way around the directories. Here's the toilet and the drinks machine. And we go out every Thursday night for drinks or something. Yeah, well, you've got to do those things. But actually, onboarding should be 100 days, 3 months. And it's there to do 2 things. First of all, to get someone up to productivity as quick as possible. That's really important. So to give them the training and the exposure that they need to be where you want them to be. And the second thing is to make certain that you've made the right hire. That's about setting little mini targets or mini KPIs or mini OKRs or whatever it is that you want to put in place. But you must achieve this by then. So to measure. Now, it's a bit of work to put those together. I accept that. But I still think that is something that you have to do. That once you do that, you accelerate people, and then, or you realize pretty quickly that what you thought you were getting is not what you've got, and you can either fix that by training or coaching or a stiff talking to, or you can cut your losses and get rid of them. Right? That's what I think. And that lead up, that onboarding process. I wish we've got more time to talk about that. Really, probably another hour. But that onboarding process is lengthy. It's managed. There are set checkpoints to make sure that things are happened that should happen. And you're delivering a promise in there to the people that you've hired to get them to maximum productivity, to give them everything that they need to get them to that productivity level within 3 months. Now, if you put those 2 things together, you shouldn't need offboarding because no one will ever leave. But they clearly do, which is why I think now we want to talk about offboarding. Now, you, Jake, you do offboarding for yourself, for your own company, obviously, but you also do it with clients, don't you? Which I've had absolutely fascinating. Could you talk to us a little bit about offboarding now? We've got 10 minutes or so. Let's dig into it and see where we go with it.
Yeah, of course. So in my world, which is property, you have two sort of clients. You got the corporates. They tend to have their own HR department, and you then have the independents where the directors are the owners. Both handle it very differently, and also it depends on the individual that's leaving and how they've left. Again, it's handled very differently. All in all, whether you're a corporate and independent, whether they've been made redundant, sacked, or they've handed in their notice, always carry out that employee interview. It's something like over 96% of employees feel that their voice should be heard when they're essentially leaving a company.
High, is it?
Yeah.
No idea. Yeah, man, that is
Stupidly
high.
And the reason why it should be carried out is a multitude of reasons. Firstly, and I suppose we'll stick to the theme of employer brand, to maintain and improve the employer brand. So looking at it on a granular level, let's just say someone's got a month's notice period. If the employee started to be treated like a second-class citizen by the manager in particular, it's going to leave a sour taste in their mouth, and they're going to be leaving the business again with a sour taste in their mouth. And a former employer, they can become an ambassador or an assassin for your company, especially in the property world, which is extremely incestuous. Don't get me wrong, it's a two-way street. If an employee starts slacking, turning up dead on time and leaving dead on the dot in sales, we all know you've got to, do
Be
the
more
extra hours here
flexible.
and there.
Mhm.
Exactly that. They don't carry out their sort of duties with as much care as they used to. Again, it's just going to leave a sour taste in the employer's mouth, and you just never know what's going to happen in the future, where you could potentially cross paths, or that employee could know someone who's looking to join the business, and if they're a mate of that employee and they turn around and say, oh, what was it like working at XYZ, and that employee's had a poor offboarding experience, they're going to be turning around saying, don't work there, they do XYZ, this is crap, that's crap, don't go there. And that employer has potentially lost potentially lost a class bit of talent. So that, that's on the assassin side. Flip side of it, on the ambassador side, if it is smooth, fair, you've made them feel good, you haven't treated them like a second-class citizen, then yeah, they're going to be an ambassador. You never know that they might return, they might become a boomerang employee. And yeah, you get that data which will help improve that company, or even reinforce it, or might help you uncover something you didn't think was such a selling factor as well.
And how would you do this, Jake? Are you doing it? Is it like an online survey? Are you having them like face to face? Are you doing it over Zoom, over the phone? How do you suggest that people do offboarding?
So first, it's a checklist. I'd say it's a checklist that you want to go through, just so each time someone leaves, it's as fair and consistent and transparent as possible. What that checklist looks like. So let's just use the example where someone's handed in their notice. During that meeting that you've had, hopefully you've got a good enough relationship where you can see if the pain points, it might be a pain point. Let's just say it is a pain point. Let's say they're not leaving the industry or relocating, whatever. If it is a pain point, is it something you can rectify? Which means, again, you retain that talent. You then don't have to fork out more on either recruitment costs or the money that you lose from them leaving. So yeah, it's first in that meeting, you'll see if you can rectify it. If not, then it's a case of thanking them essentially, for their service, for being, hopefully they've been a good employee. You then notify the senior leadership team, who will then notify their teams. You'll want to give the employee what the next amount of period of time is going to look like. If they're in a sales position, they're most likely going to put on garden leave, just so they, don't steal data, just so they don't, sneakily put people across to their new clients. If they're not on, sort of like sales side, say they're administration or something, obviously they'll probably see out their notice. In that time, you just want to manage their expectations on what it's going to look like. Hopefully, you still expect them to still carry out their services to the highest level that they've been doing it. You'll let them know when you'll be letting the rest of the team know, just so it doesn't come as a shock to the team. You can manage expectations with the senior leadership team, with especially an agency, them coming out of that seat, if you're going to need to employ someone else, if it could be a case of maybe looking at tech, which might resolve that issue. So yeah, managing expectations, alerting the senior leadership team, working on getting the equipment back, and also sort of like getting all their access sort of cut off as well. Because again, that ties
Can I
into
ask a
security.
question on this? Because I'm really fascinated by this. Because
Yeah.
sometimes when people leave, it's like, well, get out as quick as you can. Let's not do anything. Just go. I'm not that you would ever say that, but I'm almost embarrassed that you're leaving. So just go. Get out of my face.
Yeah.
I don't think about you again. And well, we've all felt like that with people, and of course, as employees, we felt like that because we want to leave immediately. But I think there is this. Well, let's do this properly. Let's do this as professional people. Let's make sure that everything that needs to be done on the checklist, as you say, is done. So it's all done properly. But there is that. I also want to know why you're leaving. I really want to understand what's not right here. And it's not acceptable to say, oh, because I've got a better paid gig somewhere else, because we know that people don't tend to leave for that as a primary motive. That can be the thing that spurs them on. It's normally, I think you said it earlier, I think number one is the management, the way in which you managed. I think that's the number one reason that people leave. And I think there's some truth in that. So obviously that cannot be done by the hiring manager, as you said, because what's the problem? You are.
Yeah.
I got offered some more money somewhere else. So Do you do these things for your clients? Do you ever do these sort of investigationary calls where we say, let's understand why you're leaving? Or is that something you always leave your clients to do, perhaps with your backup and your help?
I mean, I offer it, and I have done it for some clients, especially if it might be someone that I've placed, and whether they're leaving within rebate after rebate, it's always good to find out what the real reasons are. And I'll be honest, I'll turn to the client and say they think X, Y, Z is a bit of a gentleman sausage, or that tends to be the reason why. You said we're not allowed to swear on this, so I'm trying to keep it as PC as possible.
You can say
But yeah, if someone's like a gentleman sausage, it could be culture is a big umbrella word for it. Some cases it might just be that they didn't expect it to be how it was sold to them. As you said, if people aren't delivering on their promises, they're going to be leaving. So whether that's the hours they're working, the flexibility they have, the KPIs, the targets, the goals,
all of
they
that comes
keep.
under that fourth one, which is management, right? If you're looking at
Yeah.
the EVP, because I think it's a good idea to match your offboarding with your EVP. I mean, it can do other things as well, of course, but the EVP describes exactly why people should come and work here. So clearly, that's the thing you're going to test against. Are we delivering? You came here because of all of these things.
Yeah.
Did we deliver them? And I'll tell you a tip when you're asking questions, right? Generally speaking, in many cases, people feel awkward about answering some questions, either subjectively or as a binary, So is your boss any good? No, it's rubbish, really. No. So what you do is you give people a scale. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put your boss? 1 being, a little Hitler, 10 being fantastic, could not got better. Where am I? I'm telling you now, if the score is 1 to 6, they're rubbish. If it's 10, well, it ain't never going to be a 10, but it could be. What you're looking for is 7, 8, or 9. That's what you really want, and then that's fine. But if it's below that, then you know that there's a problem, and you can dig a little deeper. So, okay, what kind of things made them a 5? What is it that they didn't do, or what is it they did do? You can really dig deep. And I think when we do these on voice of the customer and voice of the employee, for our clients, these are the sort of conversations we have, because there lies excellence. The secret to excellence is to understand the little things that you can change, which are going to improve you. There lies excellence, but you have to prize it out. You can't just ask people and they just tell you. It doesn't work like that. You have to really kind of work to get out this information, but it will come if you make it easy for people. And I don't know whether you go down to that level of depth.
Well, there's sort of 10 to 15 questions which I can send over, and if you wanted to post to your network, more than welcome to. But yeah, it'll essentially drill down into the reasons, and it could be, it'd be what prompted you to start looking for a new job. And the reason why that's a good question is that it's not a question of why did you take a new job. It could be what helps you identify what was the straw that broke the camel's back.
I think that's a crucial question, Jake. It's that one, not why you took the job, as you said, because I took it because they offered it me and I quite liked it. Why did you even start looking in the first place? Because if people are happy, the chances are they won't look. If they're happy, they'll just stay, really. And exactly. I think there's truth in that.
Unfortunately, guys, we have come pretty much to the end of the show. So in a second, I am going to come to Mike and, of course, Jake to find the top tip that being a stickier employer, how you can use it, whether it's offboarding or anything else. But before then, Mike, next week we have a show that I know you're very much looking forward to, which is your debate.
Yes.
Man loves to argue, ladies and gentlemen.
We've got Max Learmonth coming on. He's a big 360 advocate. He likes to post about it. I'm not a big 360 advocate. I'm a layered model. So we want to debate the pros and cons of both models so that you can fully understand the best solution for you. So it's going to be great fun. 2 weeks' time.
We're very much looking forward to that. Okay, so let's talk about, at the end of the show, we always try and make something that's as practical as possible, because we've talked about a lot of things today. EVP and offboarding, they're big topics, really. We could probably do a show on offboarding in itself. So, Jake, from your point of view, if someone's watching this thinking, okay, I want to become a stickier employer, I want to find out all this information, what is the first thing that you recommend that they do?
For the offboarding process, it is creating a detailed, fair, consistent checklist. Yeah.
Mhm. There you go.
And you're prepared to share yours with us so that people can have a kickstart on that, which is very good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Very much.
Ooh,
Okay. And
yes,
Michael? Yes.
I think the first step should be to audit your EVP. So in other words, what do people think your culture is? What is it that they think? How do they feel about the way in which they're managed and all the different components of that? How do they feel about their career progression, their personal development? All of those things. Do they think you give enough away in corporate social responsibility? Do they think that your business socializes and brings people together enough? Find out what it is now and compare that with what you'd like it to be. And you, as the leader, are the ones to do this. This is not a committee, this is you. And then that's your first step. And I think also, as Jake said, if you start to install a decent offboarding process, you're going to get information from that from the get-go. It's going to be great.
Fantastic. Okay. So, as I said, we're at the end of the show now. So I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who's watched. Thank you very much. I want to say thank you to Jake for being a great guest today. Thank you so much for attending, Jake.
Thank you for the invite.
Very welcome.
It's been a pleasure.
I guess I should say thank you to Mike. You know, with that hair, it's brave for him to come on the show.
It's a story, Lovey. It's a story. Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you, Kirsty, for managing the whole thing. And of course, Jake, for coming on the show. It's a pleasure. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
We will indeed.